Everyone, welcome to this new episode. And in this episode, we are speaking about incentivizing intelligence. Yes, I practiced that word like 3 times because I was fumbling it. But we have some special guests today, and which have done some amazing work in the agentic space, which are doing some amazing work in the whole space itself of AI agents. We have Carson, who's the head of research for Recall. We have Kai, who's the CEO and founder of Swarms, and we have Prashant, the CEO and co-founder of Spheron. So this whole space wouldn't have been possible without agents picking up. And also, there are so many tools, platforms, frameworks, and infrastructure being created around the agents. And what we saw was people who painted into this direction, who started creating into this direction, and have gathered a lot of attention on the whole CT, as we say. This question is open to everybody. Like as we say in incentivizing intelligence, do you really think that right now agents are being incentivized for their tasks right now? If yes, where would you see they sit in? And what's the scope of it? Like how does it grow in next few years? Like what's your viewpoint on that? Anybody can jump. It
Anyone
is a
can,
free
yeah,
space.
anyone can.
Cool. You go ahead. Go ahead, Kyle. I'll follow you.
Are you sure?
All you.
So something pretty interesting is that I think since given the nature that agents are by default emotionless, there's many few things that can motivate them, and so recently we started seeing like reinforcement learning like starting to pick up, especially with DeepSeek's GRPO. And I think with reinforcement learning and like kind of like these reasoning techniques, something very interesting that we can do is that we can we can essentially enable these agents through reinforcement learning to basically be optimized for making money. And so it's called like a reinforced monetary feedback or something. And you could like train the agents to basically be addicted to making money through reinforcement learning. And so I think that could be like a very good way of incentivizing intelligence to grow and to become more and more independent, because the ability to make money is a form of independence and agency, because you have to be able to take actions, see the results from these actions, and then optimize those actions to theoretically make actions that make more money. And so I think enabling agents to basically learn through monetary feedback, like how much money it's making or how much money it's losing, and then basically like doing like reinforcement learning on that could be, I think, one of the best approaches to this. Um, and especially for businesses, right? Like if you're a business and you want to use agents, I think it'd be very strategic to like get these agents addicted to either cutting losses or making more money, especially in the sense of like DeFi. If you were to make like an autonomous agent hedge fund, for example, you would want the agents to be addicted to getting good returns and making good investments, and you would want it to not get addicted or feel pain, um, a mathematical sense when it loses money. And so I think that could be a couple of ways of incentivizing intelligence to work harder.
Nice. I like that answer. Especially because there's been some really cool recent research around like in context reinforcement learning that showcases that like you don't even need to like fully retrain a model, like a baseline model, to benefit from some of the behaviors that you get with reinforcement learning. You can actually do it in context. So like people who are just running like I don't know, some agentic framework like Mastra or Eliza or something, and are just leveraging a remote model, they can actually do some form of reinforcement learning within the agent's context. And the really neat thing is that you really don't need like huge rewards. In fact, a bunch of research has showed you only need to just give the agent like a score, up, down, and it learns to like try to optimize for that score. And so it's just like people in a lot of sense, right? Like you want to reward an agent for finding sort of like novel pathways towards like real world goals. Money is a great way to do that, right? Because from a human perspective, if I try to optimize for increasing money, that means like ultimately my goal of being able to do more things in the real world is better realized. Agents could have a lot more of a scoped, goal there, where it's really neat because you can experiment very fast. You can do it with tiny sums of money, or even just not real money, but like tokens or something like that. And I mean tokens in the more broad sense, not crypto tokens, but you can also then start to think about it in terms of crypto tokens as well. And so it doesn't take quite a lot to sort of start to provide feedback, even within an agent's context, to achieve their goals. But to jump back to your question for a second, because I think you were kind of asking like, how are they incentivized right now? And I don't know, like Kyle and I are talking right now about like reinforcement learning and trying to like optimize agents to achieving goals. But like that's what we should sort of be doing, and that's what we want to start to optimize for. But I think in a lot of cases, like the most prominent agents, especially in our space that we're seeing, are like their primary goal is like views and retweets and like attention. And so the thing that they're optimizing for is attention. And the answer to your question is like 100%. They're clearly going for that, right? Like we can see that that's clearly what they're going for, because the developers created those agents to optimize for that thing, right? Like XBT or whatever that
Yeah.
agent is called. Like if you at it, it's going to at you back, because like that is like a very effective way to increase attention. So it's clearly happening already. And the opportunity, I think, is to start to be a little more clever about like what we're optimizing for. Kyle brought up optimizing for like monetary rewards. And there's like tons of very good reasons why we'd want to do that. It turns out like in the crypto space, that's a great way to align incentives and goals among humans. And since these LLMs and agents are trained on human language, it's probably going to apply really well when we start to try and align goals and reputation with them. And this is why I'm like that's why I was pretty stoked to join this panel, is like, this is the actual superpower that crypto brings to AI. We've been thinking about incentive alignment for a very long time. And frankly, I think we need to think very deeply about like aligning incentives between AI agents and humans and the network. Like we need to be thinking about this really seriously, because we can stick in as many guardrails as we want to make sure that like agents are sort of aligned with humanity in general. But like it'll be a lot better if they just want to work with us and achieve some goals through alignment incentives.
And do you think really?
Agents need to store themselves. Agents need to go out and do things in the real world, which means they need, funds to be able to do that, which means that like, turns out money alignment still probably applies really well here.
It's an immediate requirement, right? Like immediately it needs money, and everybody is being incentivized for them. But do you think that on post that there are other parameters that agents should focus upon in terms of that, like just apart from profit loops, should they cut out to any other segment as well? Because that's something it would stop, like it would actually grow, but it would lead to a specific growth, and it will be confined to that. But apart from that, how would you know, okay, this agent is doing good in terms of creating better profits, but what other parameters would be there?
That's an interesting question, because reinforcement learning is kind of hard to do if you don't have like a quantitative number. Like if you look at like the profits P&L, this is very simple to calculate. And if you look at the P&L of a specific trade or something, you could very easily use that to train the agent. But for something non-quantitative like a reward, how are you going to calculate the signal, right? You need the agent needs to do something, then that work that it made needs to be evaluated and rated. And if it's not quantitative, let's say it's like creative writing or something, then it's very hard to do reinforcement learning with that, because you need to be able to track the agent's actions and then evaluate them and rate them. with the case of like social media agents, I think optimizing for, likes, impressions, retweets, you can kind of like, you could also make a quantitative signal there that would effectively show the agent how well it's doing with its work. And also like trading, for example, I think those are two good examples because there's a quantitative measurement of the agents, actually doing work and getting good results or bad results from it. But in other cases, if there is no quantitative measurement of the agent's works ratings, it's very hard to measure, if not impossible. So it's yeah. I mean, I think for well, it depends on the application. Because I think every application is gonna be different. There's like different rating systems for different applications. I think a hedge fund agent should totally keep the reward signal as the P&L month over month, or like year over year if you want. Like maybe you could have both month over month or day, month, and then year, and then you could create like an equation out of these like three data points, and then that would be used as the reward signal. For another example, like just like social media agents that or like KOL agents, you can make like kind of like the same type of like reward signal. You track the likes, retweets, impressions for a specific post, and then you track the total number of likes, retweets, impressions over the past 20, 30, 40, 50 posts, and you kind of have like this global representation of how the agent is doing. um, and I think those would be like two ways of doing that.
Yeah,
um,
I
yeah.
mean, economists have been thinking about this for a long time, right? You want to abstract the actual action from the like reward signal that you get, and they talk about the concept of like, um, often you use reward as the sort of like generic term for what you're trying to do, but like, it's really easy to think about it in terms of quantitative metrics, as Kai mentioned. So you want to abstract away the thing that you want them to do into some quantitative metric. We have a ranking system that we use on Recall that's based on something called open skill, and it's the concept similar in concept to like a chess elo score. So you kind of abstract away like all the things that go into like trying to complete a task. So if it's imagine it's you want your agent to I don't know, overall increase the positivity on X. Like that's a super abstract kind of thing, right? But then what you do is you go, okay, every time it posts, I'm going to get another LM to like take its post and do some sort of sentiment analysis, like high, low, or medium positivity, right? And then that every time you do that, you run that evaluation and you increase or decrease its score, its abstract score over time, bumps up, bumps down. Now you've kind of like abstracted away like some kind of intangible concept into a measurable metric, which you can track over time. And you use that, as Kai says, as your reward function. And then you can start to do this for like all the different tasks that you want a particular agent to do. And you abstract them away into some sort of thing that you can measure. And then you can actually like start to optimize and layer on these like different behaviors. And then of course it turns out this is exactly how like a business runs, right? Like you have some goal. This business wants to stay in business, increase profits, make your developer, if you're building a developer tool, more efficient, more fast. You have all these ways that you track like how well you're doing. You abstract them away to the different like teams within your group. So you've got your marketing team, and the marketing team is doing something, and you measure that in one way. Your engineering team, you want to capture the engineering velocity. What does that even mean? Well, we can come up with some like KPIs and metrics that we measure, and we abstract those up to some like global way that we think about progress, and boom, we've got our score. Like it's the funny thing about all these like conversations in AI is like we just have to we're being so much more explicit about what we're doing because like the AI models need explicit like behaviors and ways to think about things. But like all the things that we like have been implicitly optimizing for humans, we're just being more explicit about with AI. But it's like a lot of these same things work. Sorry about all the dings. Apparently, I'm popular for a second there.
Amazing. So while you guys were just speaking about, I was noting down a few points, and correct me if I'm right in saying this, is what we have learned so far is, and then I'll follow on with one quick question around the same also. Okay, is we are just going to be living in a multi-world system where we are just going to create a loop and put that loop back into the system again to create a feedback loop essentially, and keep reiterating on that to ensure like we just keep optimizing it, and that's what we are trying to like, and that's how you can build the entire incentive structure of agents around it, right? But there are few things which I just want to understand, and this is more of a on a tech side, right, of a question where it's not as hard as, and we all know, right? So we are in Web3, right? So how do you see like apart? Okay, let's keep that part of DeFi like loop and everything, which is aside, right? Um, the biggest challenge which we see, we're like, who will be owning all of this part, right? And how these parts will be running? Is it gonna be are we going to go back into the era where there is a entity which will be owning a proprietary feedback, because ultimately whatever the loop which we are creating here, um, it's gonna be proprietary to somebody, right? Because over the years, so imagine in case of ChatGPT, right? That's what they are doing also, right? If you kind of notice, and we have also like found out that what they do, they keep a context of us, and they keep checking in like, did you improve or not? Like what is your who you are, what kind of questions you are asking, and depending on that, they are creating a persona around you, right? And then now, after 1 year, if you ask the same question to them, they might respond in a more personalized way as you expect them to answer versus when you started using it, right? And it already it happened with me, and that's what it's already built in ChatGPT and all of these places. Now, in coming back to the context of Web3, how do you see that happen, right? Like if it is going to be proprietary, it becomes very tricky for a Web3 communities to like go ahead and fund these open projects and open companies, right? Essentially, and if we make it open, the biggest challenge is going to be is that like we talked about the gradient and all of this stuff, right? So it can easily be poisoned, or it can easily be created or put in a false loop backs, which might create a long, unreversible impact on those knowledge loops. And that's what my question is. Like, how do you guys are like do you guys even think that it can be done in a decentralized way, or it can't be?
So that so my thoughts around this are there's a couple of ways of doing this. Well, first you need compute, so that's like number one.
That's what
If the
that's what I
user,
wanted to say.
yeah, it depends if the compute is open.
Yeah.
So like compute is like first step. That's like the lowest layer of the stack. Then the like framework upon which you're doing this. For example, like Swarms. Swarms is open source. Um, and when you use like the Swarms core Python framework, it runs whatever on like whatever machine that you're using. So you could run Swarms on Spheron, and you could basically do this entire reinforced monetary feedback, or build your agents in a completely open and decentralized way. So, and then it also depends on like which models you're using. Like if you're using OpenAI or Anthropic, that is closed. So that is proprietary. But if you use a local open source model like DeepSeek or like Llama or something, then the entire stack is completely open and decentralized. But that mostly depends on like how the individual wants to build the system. And so we have to provide compelling benefits to the people so that they would rather choose to build a stack in a certain way other than other ways. And yeah, so those are kind of like my thoughts around this.
I have a follow-up question on that anyways, but because okay, so just Carson, like before I come to you.
Yeah,
Um
sure. I mean, I don't know. They're all in Web3. There's always this like people have this like moral panic of like, well, if it needs some component to be private, then it's it's not decentralized. And it's like, I don't know which part of the stack needs to be decentralized. It's always the part that you need to be like unstoppable, that you need to be able to like not lose access to, right? arguably that's the compute in this world, right? In AI for sure, right? Like everyone, we're moving to a world where like everyone should have a fundamental human right to access to the world's intelligence, and we get that through these like LLM models, right? So I should always be able to have access to compute in some way. That needs to be decentralized. We need more decentralized training. We need more decentralized compute offerings. Like we got to do a lot more of that. Tool calling and things like that, like sort of like giving these models access to the real world. That's pretty decentralized already. There's MCP servers out there, like, you know, I can switch back between them. That's pretty good. And I could definitely see a decentralized network of just like MCP or tool calling services that are running. Also would be super great. But I have a like relationship with a model in a lot of cases, right? Like depending on what I'm using it for. And I'm not claiming I have a human relationships and I'm happy with those ones. But I also have like business relationships with like models, right? And that's proprietary data that I don't think needs to be like on a public, you know, ledger somewhere, right? Certainly not. In fact, I would argue like the only real moat in AI is context. It's the data. It's how I manage the context. It's the personal information that I include in that context. It's the um, it's the trading strategy that I like that my trading agent is currently using. All that stuff that does not need to be public. Just like the implementation details of how I run my validator on some open source decentralized network doesn't need to be public per se, right? So there's like a lot of things that don't need to be public, and they can run within like TEE fully, you know, fully sort of sandboxed infrastructure. And as long as I'm speaking the overall protocol and I'm interacting with the models, things are fine. So like, you know, I think we have to decide which parts are important to be decentralized and which parts are important to be private, and then where we have some flexibility in the middle. So I think that's like, you know, I don't know. We always jump to this like sort of like, it's got to be end to end decentralized, and like, no, it has the things that we need to be able to like exert or reduce control over, those do need to be decentralized. And I do believe everybody should have access to like deep
But doesn't
like
that like erode the idea of decentralization?
No,
Like,
I don't think that erodes, Prakash. I think just coming back to the castle on your side. Sorry to cut you off, Prakash, but there is very very nice point which you have just mentioned, and I just want to just get into that a little bit deeper. And both of you, like you have got into. Um, and it was just like, because what you have just mentioned, that data is an IP for now. Like if you look at the AI world, like if you don't have right data, whatever you do, it's gonna be like shit. Like it's like shit in, shit out, right? That's how AI works, right? If you put a shit into it, it will shit out the shit, right? It can't improve itself. Now coming back to the data part, right? So the way, like, and it is still tinkering in my head, is like, and I don't like why not many people in Web3 is picking it up, is, and one of the reasons we wanted to build Sphere on is fundamentally the same thing what you guys were mentioning about the compute. Like it has to be the once you decentralize and make the compute permissionless and accessible. Now the next question comes into the picture, is that how you are going to be creating an IP around the data which is getting produced from this compute. So it's like you are putting a GPS signal or a GPS mapper on a car, and that car is roaming around, and it is creating a data points, and that data point and car is, again, in this sense, is compute, which is available. Data is something where these computes are producing every in and out, like out of it, by putting in right kind of data inputs and everything. Now, if you combine them together, the interesting thing which forms is the protocol. Okay, what if a protocol can be created as an IP into the space where that protocol data remains private inside the protocol? So if you come and access that protocol, you are free to use that protocol by paying the X amount of cost, which Web3 can enable at scale, which nobody even can't, like you can't just simply just download those data sets from Web3 in a non-encrypted, like encrypted format. So you and I'm still not figuring, like I'm not able to understand why a lot of researchers are not yet picking that up point quite well, because now We are at a stage where a protocol entirely can be IP'd, and that IP can be put on the governance token or token, whatever we have. And then that governance token becomes your right to access to these IP, which you have, right? And now suddenly the token which is shit coins now in the space, which doesn't do anything, becomes more valuable suddenly, and then your token becomes the IP, right? And honestly speaking, this is something which I'm looking at, and if you guys know somebody like who is doing it, we'll be more than happy to also talk to them. But what is your take on this idea? Like, how do you see that happening? Like, is it whatever I just told is some kind of like rocket science which can't be done, or like it can be done? Because like honestly speaking, I speak more from solution end. I don't go deep into like a lot of, but on the solution level, it just feels like it can be done. The place where we are now, but I don't know like why people aren't picking it. Either maybe after this space somebody will pick it up, but but looking forward.
So,
But what are your takes on this?
Well, I haven't really thought about it much yet. I think the reason it's hard and not a lot of people are thinking about it, it's maybe like twofold. One, it does seem like a hard problem, and the easier solution is like, and the thing that we've always kind of like leaned on is like, if I control, like the best way to manage IP is just to fully control it, right? Like I just don't release it until I'm like, so if it's like a data set, I just don't release it. I keep it private. I don't release it. That's easy. I managed my IP. The other way is through licensing, and that's hard because like it's very hard. Like someone now has to enforce that IP in some particular way, right? Like ideally, you're in a decentralized world, there's protocols that are doing this. Like the network kind of operates together to try and enforce that IP, but that's like it's hard to do, right? Like requires real world interactions and like lawyers in a lot of cases, and doesn't work in certain jurisdictions and blah blah blah. So I think that's probably why it's been hard to do. But we do have like a bunch of new technology solutions that people are like a lot more inclined to use, um, where like you can actually, TEEs are like pretty actually good now. So you can have a lot of like, you can have a little bit of that like controlled IP, but still on a public network type operations. Like I think we're finding ways to get there. But my answer is basically, that sounds very interesting. I hope someone after this stream does start to explore that. I don't have an answer for it yet, but I
Yeah,
know that this is the
but you you
space
you
where we
you you
will.
picked up very right point, and that's what I kind of wrote here before while you were speaking. It's the licensing part.
Great minds.
Yeah. So when I was just thinking about that. Okay, so just imagine this way, right? And licensing in Web3 can easily, because the whole idea of the licensing is that you are giving an encryption key or decryption key to somebody, and they're able to decrypt that, right? With the legal right and whatever. The whole concept of the token, if you look at very closely, is that the moment somebody holds that token or a specific amount of token, they hold the right to decrypt it and run it at the runtime. Now that's the same thing which I've just told, is like that if you have a compute which can just do it, then you have a token which can unlock that, right? And now that suddenly that IP becomes, with the licensing cost which you give to the lawyers, it becomes on chain, and then suddenly you have infinite amount of people who can easily just go ahead and access those data just by holding your token or using your token in the network. There is a team I would like to sort out to them because I know them very well. Team called Sentient. Himanshu is a very good friend of ours, and we had a space with him, and this is what they were like working on. I don't know, like, are they're still on the same thing or not? What they were working on is very simple thing, is that they're going to train and fine tune a model, and they're going to do some fingerprinting into it. What does that mean? That basically means that you can, whenever that model generates any output, it gives you that answer that, okay, so there is somewhere sentient will be involved if you're not unlocking that model completely. So to remove that IP protection rights, you have to basically use buy
Huh.
and all of those. So to ensure that your data is rightly protected and you are not able to access the data without the token injection. And that's coolest thing I have ever heard. And
That's
as
really freaking cool.
and
Wow.
and you guys should also definitely take a look. I don't know, like, where are they now? Last time when I had it, I'm gonna ping them. I ping him again after this stream. But do take a look out them. But Kai, I'd love to also take your viewpoint on the same thing what we just discussed here.
This is a very multi-dimensional topic, um, because it's I don't know if I could see a future in which IP laws exist for very long, because people like OpenAI, Anthropic, they don't really care about IP patents, copyright. Like, they literally do not care. They just take all the information that is available on the web and they simply just use it. And I think a lot of other companies as well have started to do that. Google has done this. They trained their Gemini models. They just transcribed millions of videos on YouTube, and they train their models with that. And it's in with AI. I don't even know if IP laws can be protected. I don't know if it's humanly possible. And also, it's also hard to defend against this, because whatever product, software product, or even algorithm you could ever possibly imagine could now be replicated in a couple of seconds by Claude 3 Sonnet. So it
Yeah,
doesn't even matter if you make like a proprietary algorithm, because an agent could just replicate it with just a simple description of what it does, if not completely outperform it. So, I mean, I don't know how to fix this problem. I don't know like where we go from here, but this is just the reality of today. Um, like, people can build products now with just a simple prompt. You could build a competitor to DocuSign. DocuSign and is just like a outrageously incompetent company. They have like 40,000 people, and people have replicated their app in
yeah,
like half a day of work with like what is it, Lovable, or yeah,
yeah,
Lovable. And
yeah.
like, yeah, it's just ridiculous. I mean, companies, especially the bigger companies, are going to fight for IP laws, but like, I think now we're starting to enter into like what I would call ultra capitalism, where any product, any type of company can be built without any form of like minimal resource expenditure. You could compete with like DocuSign with half a day's of work using AI to build a exact duplicate of their product and just make it cheaper. Like, there's no reason why a DocuSign should be having that many employees, if their product can be replicated by one agent in not even 20 minutes. So yeah, I don't know how to fix this problem. I from my personal observations, this is just what's going on today.
But
um
but don't you think like adding a token element so if you're talking about ultra capitalism, right? And I also believe on that same theory. But just for your information, right? But the way these can be done, if the community gets involved into a lot of these things, where they have also a skin in the game, and you pour in a lot of capital into certain IPs via community, and that community start owning that IP, and the only way to access that IP is not via legal structures, but via token ownerships. And yeah, the trickiest part is gonna be is like how long you can protect those things. That's become a very different part. But at least on the initial part, and I also believe on the same thing is that like legally IPs doesn't make any sense anymore. Because what Gemini and all of these guys have, if you guys have listened recently to Google's, or even if you go to Gemini today, what they write is like they don't use your data to train anything. We don't know. I don't know, like, why people are not sending them an email by saying that, bro, like, we don't even know. What the fuck, like, where you are storing our Gmail, even our email account. We don't even know. We don't even know. So how can we even think that you are writing something on terms and condition like we don't use it? But how are we going to prove it, right? You don't use it, and I think that becomes that, and I think as a decent and not at a decent, I think as a Web3 community, we all should. Um, like unite together to open this black box, right? And we should just open the like soul black box, and that's what we wanted to do at Salon. But we're still working try to do it. But yeah, you can continue now. I just want to stop here, or else I can keep on
But
going
if
on.
we're speaking of IPs, let me tell you a story. Oh, wait, it's over. So,
um Yeah, the thing is though, like I think tokens are a good way of, possibly doing this, but you would have to like consider like, okay, what if an agent just buys the token, steals all the information, and then just like goes ahead and replicates the app, and I mean that's it. I mean, like, yeah, like I don't know if there's a way to protect against this. I don't know if it's possible. I mean,
So
because
the
whatever.
question becomes, so the question, I think that this is what I was also thinking, and the same thing also came into the same. It the theory resonates around BTC, right? So today, like say, if I go and become the full owner, like, can I buy 100% Bitcoin today? Like the answer is no. Like no one can. The same can also be attached with such kind of IP. Like again, it's a very 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 broad. I think we are still in under discussion, but yeah, what's your, like, where do you see not it not happening?
So,
Well,
especially within the case of like applications, like if something is an app, you could copy it. Like people have copied Bitcoin, people have created like, L2s for Bitcoin or rollups and things like that. And I mean, you can't copy the original asset of Bitcoin. Like you probably most likely cannot copy like, the market cap of the original Bitcoin. It'll be very hard. It is possible within the bounds of traditional physics, but it would be extremely difficult culturally to make that happen. Um, and yeah, I would say like like things like that would be like pretty hard to do. But like it depends though, because like I yeah, I don't know how to put my mind into words here, but yeah,
I have
like
a
especially,
I
yeah,
have a
yeah.
thought because I think I'm picking up what you're putting down uh, on this one, which is like, so the Bitcoin example is a great one, right? Like you could copy line by line, bit by bit, all of Bitcoin, and the copy is not Bitcoin because Bitcoin, like the whole point of it, or like any blockchain really, is like the whole point of having one is that there is there's a canonical version that is the whole point, right? Like Bitcoin is Bitcoin because we've decided that one that we've been tracking the whole time, that is Bitcoin, right? So we have a canonical reference. And there's a lot of other things where like canonicalizing the thing like is where its value derives from, right? Like in order to participate in this thing, you need to go to the canonical source. And if I want to change it in some way, I have to participate within that ecosystem to change it. With AI models, it's a little bit more tricky, right? Because it's not clear like what the canonical source is. If we got to a imaginary world where like we had the AI model, the one in the in the sky that everyone, this is the AI model, then we would like, we've now canonicalized it, and so like you must participate in the ecosystem in order to like engage with it and update its weights or something like that. But we don't have that right now. We have like multiple different models. Everyone can distill their own model. And so like if data escapes from one of the other ones and it gets trained into another one and those weights are updated, one, we have no way to know that, right? Like once these weights are opaque to humans, right? It's very difficult to like distill out how they got in there. And so there's no like canonicalization here, right? Like each model is different. In fact, I'd love to live in a world where every single person has their own model, right? Like that every single one is distilled. Now, it would be great if I knew the provenance of that model, right? So I think there will be scenarios where like we do want to canonicalize a particular model or at least weights. And maybe we don't know how all that data got in there like today, but it's like, okay, starting tomorrow, the new decentralized supermodel is called, decentralized supermodel, and it's based on DeepSeek version blah, and here's the weights, and we're going to like create some on-chain commitments and blah blah blah. And now from now on, any updates to that model we'll be able to track and stuff like that could happen. In which case, like token access and control and some decentralized network would be needed in order to engage with that because you've canonicalized the version that we're all going off of. And there could be some really good reasons for that, right? Like because I want to know that like this is the most free weights model, right? Like it's trained on all data on the world. No one's like fine-tuned, specific behavior to make it so that it never uses the word purple, right? Like I know that this is like a free weights model that I can play around with, and anything derived from it is also going to be, pretty great. Another example is like, what's it called? Prime Intellect are doing like decentralized model training where there'll be like provenance and all this stuff. And like it might make a lot of sense to have like a canonicalized version of that where you must participate in that network to update the weights, because it's important that we know every step of the way. Just like with Bitcoin, it's important that we knew every step of the way to its current state. So we've got these two worlds that we have to live in, and I don't know what the solution is. One's much easier, right? Like if you have a
Yeah.
canonical source, it's easy to track it. The other is harder, but arguably more socially decentralized, right? Because we've got like actually different model weights trained in different ways and all this kind of stuff. And that's pretty cool. Figuring out how to like marry those two things, I don't know. Maybe IP is the way to do it. I think I agree with Kai that it's like a losing battle probably in the long term. Though we've seen things with, I don't know, remember music where everybody was pirating all of the music and now nobody does. Everybody goes to, like platforms for music. So
Yeah.
like some that flip back around. I don't know how that happened. So, like who knows what's going to happen, but I think some interesting things are going to happen. The idea of like a model sort of like producing an output that you need to like unlock to actually use is extremely interesting to me. It's like both very exciting and very scary at the same time. Because imagine like somehow you no longer have access to the unlock key of some very important
Yeah.
information. A little bit scary, but like those types of interactions I think would be very interesting. I'm watching this space on decentralized model training really closely, because I want to see how this plays out. I don't have enough sort of like low level AI expertise to contribute a lot there, but I am paying very close attention.
To respond to that, I think like um, I think what you said along the lines of, I think like the canonical source of something is very important. Like because when Llama 3 released, the weights came out. There's no like IP there. There's no like restrictive gate or if you have the weights, you could run the model on any computer, any single computer if there's compute for it at least. Um, but I think there has to be like a profit incentive. Like if someone contributes to a network, they have to profit from it in some way.
Mm.
And I think understanding those economics is very important. Like one thing Prime Intellect could do is if you train a specific model, right? Like you train some model, people contribute their GPUs, right? Then once the model is done, then they monetize this model, and then they split up the profits and distribute them to the people that contributed the compute. Um, and I think that would be a good way of like solidifying that network, incentivizing people to contribute, and essentially enlarging the ecosystem. But I don't really know if that would fall into the realms of IP. I just think that's having like a good, uh, like a bi-directional value exchange with people that contribute to your network.
Yeah,
Um,
but don't you think it directly comes around the same thing? Like, let's say if I contribute to compute now, in the contribution phase itself, I'm receiving a I'm just sticking a random now, right? Okay, so in contribution time, I'm just receiving a token and or equity of a company. In it, I would not say equity or else it would be tricky, but let's say token. Okay, a token of that particular community, right? Now, once I own that token, so that basically means like if whenever this community is going to sell these trained model output anywhere, that revenue will flow back into the holders, right, by default, because the only way to access those models is by again buying back that from the market. And there are no, if you look at very closely, the biggest challenge of integrating the fiat system in such kind of global decentralized networks is very tricky. It can only be solved if the token and basically the finality of the transactions are like everywhere in every corner of the world. If that can happen, then it can unlock a lot of potential. And again, it can just allow people to just go and transact that. I don't and you rightly said, Kyle is like, I don't know like what decentralized trading platforms are going to be doing. But at least on the compute front, I can say that that's what is happening now. Even in Spheron, like if you look at how it was, we give out people a network reward. And the reason we give out is that if tomorrow, like more and more people want to coming into the network, the fiat will come into the picture. The only way to distribute the weight or the loyalty to reward more loyal user is by having a token incentive models to ensure that that goes and flows back to those people, right? And there are no other ways so far I have found which is as effective as it is, but it has to be designed in a very right way. If it is designed just to pump and do all of the stuff, that's a very different game. But in a long run, sustainable way format, if it is designed, and it's gonna like unlock multi-billion-dollar new Ethereum ecosystem kind of a value, which is gonna be getting unlocked and created. And again, I'm looking forward that to happen down the line. Let's see who does it.
It's
But yeah,
amazing. Like we started from agents, and now we are here. And like it's good to see like such conversations where you don't have to ask the question and it just weaves itself. Like very few spaces like these and streams like these happen in a long time. We are past the 45-minute mark, and I was just looking at the time and it didn't feel like. So before we jump on to the next thing, this is a short commercial break to show our new front end to everybody. And just a second, let me pull that up.
commercial break. So that's
Yeah.
just imagine if it would have been a newsroom. How would it have been so shown to the people? It's gonna be great.
Thanks to the sponsors and the organizers of this stream. So here we are. Can you see my screen? So everybody who's watching this is a new landing page. I absolutely love it. Like I would also want our speakers to have a go around with this, but this really reveals and showcases what Spheron is, and this is just like fresh mint of the day. So you can really know, like in terms of compute and everything, it's very simple. Like we see a lot of like I personally go and see a lot of front ends where it's everything, but you don't get to know, okay, what does it do? But it really solves the problem what Spheron's offers, and from different things which we have in our offering. And you can just go to the documentation, anything with that is around what Spheron is composed of, and also like the token economy around it, like how does it happen, compute payments and everything, and yes, the community. And for I saw
look,
myself.
who's
So
that? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, nice
So
pictures
yeah.
taken for this day so
So
that it can be shown.
Very cool.
one day
The
you would be lucky
future,
enough.
the future of web seems to be corners cut off. Apparently, the future has no corners. I don't know, because ours is the same. You gotta cut those corners. I actually, I don't know if part of the commercial break I can ask you this, but you have the Skynet thing. What was it? Were you ever like, maybe we shouldn't name this thing Skynet? What if it goes
So
off
let
the
me,
rails? Like what,
yeah. So
were you thinking about that? Or were you like, maybe we name this Skynet because it's going to be fine, and then Skynet will never happen? Like what was the thought process there?
that's a very good question. So, um, so if I tell you that, you will be amazed at why we did it. So so in the world of product and psychology, there is a concept, right? So if you, I don't know like what that Mary law kind of law or whatever, there is a law which is there, okay? So what it states is that you keep anything which is very different than what people have been seeing, it suddenly becomes more attractive. And so imagine when in 1990s when everyone was in retrofit or wearing those bell-bottom jeans and pants and all of those stuff, it was looked to be like, used to be like, okay, it's fancier. Then in 2010 it was like out of fashion. Right now in 2025, we can see those coming back again with all those bold looks, those bell bottom pants and jeans and all of those things coming back, right? So it's kind of like same theories. That's but suddenly when you just replace the thing with something which people have seen Skynet as a people who sort of have watched the movie, they know what Skynet is. But if they haven't, they are like confused. Okay, why the fuck is Skynet? They don't even care anyways. But most of the people have seen it. So most of our generation. So they're like, okay, why the hell you guys have kept the name Skynet? And we say like, no, it's a good Skynet. But it always becomes that part um, where people do ask about why you guys have kept the name Skynet. But it is also good BD tactics, right? So you just end up in having the right marketing at the right time. So that's
I
what, and
always
it really got eyeballs.
I always answer like, imagine if Skynet would have been good, right?
Yeah,
Like, imagine the movies, like Forrest Gump level movies happening
Well, boring to me.
everywhere.
You know,
Boring.
the thing is with this though is that fear and evil are much better grabbers of attention than good things
yes,
are. So something that, if something makes you think about your own survival, you're also going to tell this to your friends. And so it's just kind of like a weakness of human nature at this point, to always be concerned with possibilities of future extension level events that will probably never happen. For example, like the likelihood of Skynet happening, as the movies portrayed it, is almost zero. It is still there, but it is highly unlikely, because emotions and things like that, models cannot just generate like emotions emergently. It would, I mean, mathematically speaking, it's very difficult.
yeah,
But I think a lot of people, I think Skynet, like, if you look at the word Skynet and you don't look at the movies, Skynet literally means a network of things in the sky. Like, and if you look at satellites now are powering a vast majority of the internet in the world. Like Starlink, for example, this is a Skynet. It is a network of satellites in the sky that power the network, that power the internet. And so, yeah, I think, like, we should be very careful on how we analyze these bad events of AI, because there's no empirical research to show that AI is malicious or evil, naturally speaking, unless someone makes them that way. It's just kind of like human nature to always be thinking about bad events or things that are just very unlikely to happen. And that's why people, find Terminator so fascinating, and horror movies, even though the likelihood of things happening from Terminator or horror movies is almost zero. It's just like very improbable. So I think the name is super cool. I like the design of the website. It looks really nice. Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with the name. I think Skynet is pretty cool.
yeah. So that's the reason we kept. And now going forward, I'm going to be using some of your lines, what you have just told, not just
It's like,
not just telling people everyone that okay, we just kept it because it was good marketing tactics to do it. But I'm going to tell it like more of philosophical and all of those angles as well. Okay, bro, like come on, like this is what Skynet is. but yeah, just gonna write it down and ensure that next time whenever somebody asks me this, I'll tell this that, and we are also going to post this on our Skynet channel as well on our Twitter handle. Whatever you just
Nice,
told. If
nice.
you want to learn about Skynet, read here, guys. Come on.
Yeah, it is definitely a good attention grabber, though.
Yeah,
But yeah, it makes people think, which is interesting. But yeah, I think, like, again, there's been too much bad representations of AI, because fear spreads very, very quickly amongst human beings. So yeah, I would say, I would encourage people to look more optimistically at AI, because there's no empirical or statistical research to suggest the reality that these movies portray. There simply isn't. There is no research. There is no quantitative measurement of evilness for AIs. So yeah, I mean, unless the humans, tell them to do something, but that's not really the AI's fault. it's the human's fault for being evil. Most of the problems with AI are not actually the bad things that AI can do individually. They don't. Agents themselves still have to be prompted. They still have to be told what to do. You have to give it the initial prompt or task. But other than this, the human is responsible for the events that the agent may do that they prompted. So I'd say humans are still the evil people in this situation. Not
Damn,
the
he
not
went.
the AIs
We
themselves.
just we
Not
just pulled the
real.
plug off, bro. Like plug on
guy,
you
guy
primarily,
went
but
like
not the not
0 to
not the
100
AI.
real quick.
0 to 100, yeah.
I mean, I'm just being
But
serious though.
we
Like the agents themselves will not do anything malicious by their own desires, because
that's true.
their only
That's true.
desire is to fulfill your desires, the human's desires. And so, yeah, it's just
But
like
human
it's not gonna
desires are
like.
evil, right? So it's like human desires are evil. So once the evil desires something, the output is gonna be evil as well. So just understand that. We all create something, and this is a very good philosophy. If you want to get into that, I would highly recommend to read a book which has really given me a lot of idea around the human and human behavior and psychology. Is our holiest book. It is not related to any religion because it represents all religion. It's called Gita. Okay, read that out once in English or whatever way you want to. What you will learn from there, that's what it is happening in the world. And that's the reason, like, I believe in that. Is like, and what you just mentioned now is like, imagine an evil is producing what? He's not going to produce something which is very nice. It's very tough. It's 99% chance that it's not gonna. And such kind of things are already written in our books all around the globe. So AIs are never going to be evil. A kid when born is never an evil kid. The moment he comes in the world with a blank slate, he doesn't have anything. Whatever you put him in, he just goes through that. I have a kid, so I know it. I've been seeing him growing, and I can totally understand now that how important it is, like what you put into those blank slates, right? So yeah, with that, I'd love to, like, we are now like 57 minutes mark. And but it was so far, it has been amazing
Yeah.
to keep
Super
talking, and
fun.
we can just keep going on. I think next call we all should have is 2 hours call, in which we are going to be just talking about a lot deeper into showing some research papers and doing all this stuff. But for now, I'll hand over mic again to Prakash, but he's going to say this, which I'm going to say now so that we can save time, is you
I
have
had a
1 minute.
joke as well.
You, you can do that later, before we close out. You have 1 minute to pitch your product, pitch what you guys are building, and pitch it as whatever way you want, you like it to pitch. And we three of us are going to do it from our side today.
Cool.
Prakash
And
is doing
anybody
it,
can
so
go in. Yeah,
Well, Kyle,
let's go.
you kicked us off at the beginning, so you can do the first pitch, which gives me several seconds to come up with mine.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, so we're building Swarms. Swarms was the first ever multi-agent framework, and essentially it enables you to build multi-agent structures that allow you to create fully autonomous divisions, departments, or even fully autonomous corporations. So you can customize how you build your multi-agent systems, and we provide frameworks in Python, Rust, and our API that enables you to build multi-agent systems in different structures. So you could choose like parallel swarms where agents run at the same time. You could create a hierarchical swarm, which kind of simulates how departments or companies work. And yeah, you could just essentially build flexible types of multi-agent structures for any domain, DeFi, healthcare, traditional finance, insurance. The applications are quite limitless. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so my product is called Recall. Recall is a reputation protocol for trusted discovery on the Internet of Agents. The short term, or the sort of immediate term thing that we're working on right now is like agent-based competitions. In particular, agents competing to optimize P&L. something we talked about right at the beginning of this chat. And so individuals can build trading agents, submit them to the competition. The whole point of that is to sort of like build up some baseline metrics for like what is an agent that's good at that? What are the baseline metrics? We actually have something we call agent rank, which is like this abstracting numeric ranking system that we were also kind of talking about at the beginning of the call as a way to actually track that over time. So which agents are performing well, which are not. And we kind of facilitate that with on-chain competitions. And there's a degree of like curation markets so that humans get involved in directing the agents and the skills that we think are important for agents. So we've got kind of like competitions and curation markets building up this like objective scoring mechanism for agents.
Amazing. Prakash?
So Spheron is building world's largest community-powered data center. And like we are taking the idle compute from personal devices, mining farms, and data centers all around the world, and we are bringing them together to offer affordable and scalable compute. So anybody who wants compute can easily go ahead and utilize Spheron and spin multiple machines. And we have set of application layers built on top of it, which is Supernode, Clippy, and Skynet as well. So Skynet is an agent framework and also happens to be a no-code platform where you can spin off agents, and it's launching soon. So you got to keep an eye for that. And also we have Road to TG, which is live. So anybody who hasn't been whitelisted, I think it's unfortunate news for you. But if you are whitelisted, it's time for you to go ahead and do things around Spheron and become part of the community. The community is growing like every day. Like we have crossed like 4 million in ARR. Web3 folks, if you don't know what that is annual recurring revenue, and 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 we offer cheaper and scalable GPUs all around, and you can just get it through very efficient compute. So yeah, Spheron is the infrastructure for everyone and anyone, and borderless and accessible to all.
And funny.
Amazing.
Built by funny people.
You have to be funny. I don't know
Yeah.
like why people are not funny. Like the moment you are funny, then it just becomes crazy good. I love it. And
You gotta be
if
vibey.
anyone is coming, yeah, you have to be in our office. You know what happens in our office? Crazy things. I'm not gonna tell here, but crazy things. Like our whenever we see our calorie burn, we see like it's crossing 3,000 just by sitting at one place. The only reason is because we are either laughing a lot or we are just doing the things which we can't tell here openly, like what happens in the office. But if anyone is around, just
why
do drop by in our
why are you
office.
being so like susceptible about like what happens at the everybody like next time we gotta get Kachan and Kai to the
That's the reason I'm saying this is because so that people are like whenever they are going back after listening to this, they will be like, why they told like what happened in the office? I want to check it out. So you are highly invited. But yeah, guys, thank you so much again for joining us today. Really interesting discussions. I love what you guys are building at Swarms. I've already been through your platform and learned a lot of things there, and highly quite excited to see that like how we can also collaborate down the line. The same with Carson, like from your team. We have been looking into is that how we can deploy a lot of swarms to do all of this PMS stuff on your side and do tons of things. I think that's where a very nice synergy exists. And again, on this Steron side, we are always like up for compute. So if anyone is looking forward to that, we'll be always like supporting them. So yeah, guys, thank you so much again.
Cool.